Everybody make a joyful noise. Make that joyful noise. Everybody make a joyful noise. Everybody make a joyful noise. You can do it, raise your voice. Everybody make a joyful noise. Woo-hoo! Oh yeah, come on. Louder, I can't hear you. Everybody lift your voice in song. Shout out song. Everybody lift your voice in song. Everybody lift your voice in song. You can do it, sing along. Everybody lift your voice in song. You guys are doing real good, real good. Everybody clap on 2 and 4. You're already doing it. Everybody clap on 2 and 4. Everybody clap on 2 and 4. Let's do it louder, do it more. Everybody clap on 2 and 4. Living big for love's the way to go. Isn't living big the way to go? Living big for love's the way to go. Living big's the way to go. You can do it now, take it slow. Living big for love's the way to go. Everybody make that joyful noise. Come on now. Woo! Everybody make that joyful noise. Everybody make a joyful noise. You can do it, lift your voice. Everybody make a joyful noise. Everybody make a joyful noise. Oh yeah.
Good morning. If I wasn't awake before, I am now. It's good to see everybody. My name is Susan Clutis. On behalf of the Reverend Donna Maurer and the Board of Trustees, I'm privileged to welcome you to the Sonoran Desert Center for Spiritual Living. Whoever you are, and wherever you are on your spiritual path, you are truly welcome here. You will be validated, supported, and encouraged to be all that you're meant to be. Our vision statement is love in action every day in every way. We express this by learning and living the principles of the science of mind. You'll find our declaration of principles at the back of your program. Please join me now in reading them. I believe there is an infinite intelligence operating throughout the universe. I believe this intelligence is only good. I believe this intelligence expresses as me. I believe through my conscious use of this power, I create my life as happy, healthy, and complete. And so it is. If this is your first time here, we especially welcome you and thank you for your interest and curiosity. So, we don't have as much setup to do because the folks do it ahead of time and see that we comply. So we're far enough apart and happy and healthy and complete. Okay. Melinda and John have an announcement.
Good morning. Well, Melinda and I are very excited about a new class that we're going to be co-teaching in June. And it's based on this book, Frequency. And a group of us practitioners recently did a book study of this book, and we found it amazingly transformative and insightful. in ways that we never had believed possible before. So we decided that it would be wonderful to offer it to all of you. And it's called Frequency, and it's going to begin in June 17th, and it's going to be 10 weeks total, 2 hours per class on Thursdays. And I found it really, really beneficial because it really goes in depth and explains about each one of us has a personal frequency that we give out that surrounds us. Some people call it auras. This goes in depth and explains how it is that sometimes if you go into a room or a space or are with another person or a person that you've just met, and you either get wonderful vibes or you get bad vibes. This book explains what's going on and how you can adjust your own personal frequency to interact with others and with yourself. So we're really excited that we'll be co-teaching it, and I will now let Melinda continue.
It is online. It'll be on Zoom on Thursdays, and we are limiting the amount of people who can participate. We're only accepting 8 people to sign up. So one person has already signed up because we want to keep it intimate and open. It's a very deep discussion when you get into it. You know, it's like everything. You get out of it what you put into it. And there are exercises in every single chapter. Some of the chapters have more than one exercise, so we as facilitators will choose which one. And then there's a meditation at the end of each chapter. And the minimum value of 10 weeks, 2 hours is $200, but we are going to accept love offering for those of you who are committed to attending consistently. Here's one thing that, one of my notes from the class so that you'll kind of get an idea of what you might get from it. Evolutionary process. It is an evolutionary process whose end result will be new kinds of perception, identity, and reality that are free of constraints. And she consistently talks about establishing and knowing your own home frequency. So you get to know what your home frequency is. Then you can go out, like John said, and visit other frequencies. But you always have the ability and the knowledge to come back home. Thank you.
If you would direct your attention to the announcements in our bulletin. If you're watching us online, please visit cslaz.org for our announcements and events calendar. Thank you.
Of God, God
Well, it's wonderful to be here in this building with smiling faces that you can see. I'm so grateful. So I want to open this meeting of ours today with a prayer. So let's stay in that prayerful state that Heather so beautifully put us into. And let's just know that there is a divine power and presence that is letting itself be known here by means of all creation. This magnificent power is revealing itself through the life and activity of each of us present here today. I affirm for each of us that we are blessed in this experience of diving deeper into the knowledge and wisdom that is at the core of each of our hearts. This is a blessed moment with blessed people, and may this experience be joyful and harmonious. May the light of intuition express itself through each of us. In gratitude for the opportunity to connect with this community more deeply, and for the love and light we all share, easefully and gracefully, I affirm this service open. And so it is. Amen. I didn't introduce myself. Most of you know me. I'm Karen King. This past week, I've been thinking about the light of order as it is explained by the author Linda Martella Whitsett, who's written a book entitled Divine Audacity. After a very chaotic Monday of having to run to the dentist in Nogales, bound up in a painful, debilitating, and disappointing dental emergency, a messed up cell phone, vital paperwork not arriving on time, and several other complications, I found myself asking for prayer, asking for divine order. But what was I asking for? I wanted everything to be okay, right? It took me a while to realize that all I had to do was respect the unfolding events as divine order, and that in spite of my stress, all was right with the world. These events were changing a schedule in a way that in the end would be beneficial to me. And I was grateful for that. There's a verse from the Bible, Ecclesiastes chapter 3. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck what is planted. Order is built into our life. Order is the architecture of the universe. Everything from the spirals of a nautilus and a time for every matter. A hexagonal honeycomb, and everything moves from infinity lines to ever-expanding circles. It displays an orderliness that dazzles scientists and theologians alike. Order fascinates us, doesn't it? We rely upon it, don't we? We study and make meaning of it. The order we sense and experience in the natural world is a material representation of spiritual order. The intelligent, underlying, and overarching, though invisible, order out of which all seems possible. When the material world and our circumstances appear random rather than orderly, we doubt the reality of spiritual order. God's will is often the explanation for inexplicable circumstances, and we say, it must be God's will. And when we do not like what is happening or where we are, we speak these words. And these words are spoken in relationship to where we really want to be. The failure of human reasoning to comprehend divine order has led to superstition, and here's the big word, anthropomorphizing God. When a hawk stalks, kills, and eats a dove, most people recognize this violence as consistent with natural order. Were we to suspend human moralism and religiosity regarding the many challenging and disturbing occurrences in our own lives, we might more easily access the inherent order that is in every moment, in all dimensions. When things go wrong for me and my loved ones, I grieve, naturally, humanly. Also, I assert my rightful power of order. I claim the power of spiritual organization, adjustment, and evolution. God is not a superhuman personality that imposes order. Rather, God is order. The organizing principle revealed in the pattern and sequence inherent in all life. Divine order is not a correction of some unhappy condition, but an integrated arrangement of energy in a pattern, sequence, or method. When a Palo Verde tree blooms, we can presume that in optimal conditions of light, moisture, and temperature, all other Palo Verde trees will be blooming as well. Even in the small details of life, such as dress, conversation, eating, sleeping, and working, system and order enable one to live a richer and fuller life. I thank Martella Whitsett for her words that I've assembled here to read to you today, and it's my pleasure to share them with you. And may you be comforted in times of what you think is chaos by this reading. Namaste.
Spirit flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit, show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding love. Spirit, flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit, show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding love. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. Thank you, loving Spirit. Thank you, thank you. Flow, Spirit, flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit, show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit, show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding love.
You know, the COVID-19 pandemic gave me a lot of gifts, and one of them was the ability to connect deeper with Spirit in the form of finding a tribe online of New Thought musicians. And this song in particular is by someone that I'm very proud to now call a friend, Eddie Watkins Jr. So I just want to say thank you, Spirit, thank you for this.
Flow, Spirit, flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding love.
Good morning. It really is wonderful to see smiles. I've been seeing this part. I was telling our new friends here that I don't know if you're an old person, an old member or new, when I can only see this much of you. I said, is that somebody I'm supposed to know, or is this somebody new? So it's really kind of nice to see smiles and get a chance to connect on that next level as we move into normalcy after this pandemic. So my thanks is for the CDC new guidance and our ability to, our board did approve it too, so it wasn't just me. So we're continuing our theme for the month. It's been lessons from the land, and a lot of what Karen said goes right along with what I'm talking about today, because what we're looking at are the natural ways that law works, or the way that things work in nature, but they almost always have a metaphysical message as well. So last week we used Stephen Covey's idea of sharpening the saw, as a metaphor for our own self-care. The farmer didn't have time to sharpen the saw because he was too busy sawing, and we're like that. We're trying to use our saw, which is our inner resources, without taking time to replenish them. So by sharpening the saw, we're replenishing, taking self-care, so that we can then go out to the world and have a busy day and get through it all with ease and grace. And then the first week we talked about priming the pump. As a kid I had to do that when I stayed with my grandparents. But a pump has to be primed. It has to be primed with water often in order to give up its clear water. And in the story, the gentleman found the pump house and he found a jug of water. He was dying of thirst. What do? Do you drink the water, or do you follow the instructions and prime the pump? So we learned in that metaphysical message just to trust the universe. There are messages all the time from the universe, and do we trust them? Because if we do, then we will have that ever-widening flow of good in our lives. So today our topic is sowing good seeds. And certainly, if we're talking about a crop of any kind, the seeds have to be good if we're going to get a good crop. And of course, for our metaphysical interpretation, the seeds that we're referring to are really and truly the everyday thoughts we think about. Because those thoughts that we carry around with us, those most dominant in our head, are the ones that eventually turn up as full-grown plants, manifestations in our physical world. That's the way the law works. So if our thoughts are our seeds, how do we make sure that they're good. So there's a little book called The Abundance Book by John Randolph Price. And while it's about coming around to a consciousness of abundance, of wealth, and it's a lot about money, he has some really good principles to keep us on track to sow those good seeds. And he calls them intense love, joyful thanksgiving, verbal harmlessness, and right action. So, to me, the idea of intense love is what you and I call unconditional love. It's those moments when we can drop all judgment of ourselves or anybody else, and when we're simply able to be in our own presence. And we can fall in love with ourselves and all of our faults and all of our flaws. And when we can do that, there's a connection that is made that goes beyond definition. It's referred to as the peace that passes all understanding. Rumi called it the soul's joy. And then that place where we are, that intense love, emanates from us to the world. In Araya Mountain Dreamer's book, The Call, she tells of the story of a man who traveled to India to meet and sit with Maharaji Ji, who was guru to the American spiritual teacher Ram Dass. And speaking of the incredible love Maharaji Ji had for everyone, the man said, I could almost understand how he loved everybody. That was sort of his job. He was a saint, and saints are supposed to love everybody. That's not what staggered me. What staggered me is not that he loved everybody, but that when I was sitting in front of him, I loved everybody. And I've met one person in my life that was like that. Her name was Vitura Papke. She was my practitioner. She was actually practitioner to our founder, Ernest Holmes, and my first mentor, Dr. William Hornaday at Founders. But when I was in her presence, I loved everybody because her intense love filtered through me, kind of like light through leaves on a tree. That's what she did. Not just to me, to everybody. We all felt it. So this love, this intense love that Maharaji Ji had and that Vitura Papke had, doesn't come with an instruction book. But it is the absolute essence of who we are when we peel back all the layers. And that's why we have spiritual work to do. It's a way to chisel away all that is not our essence, much like Michelangelo chiseled away everything that wasn't David. We can do that same thing. Because in truth, most of us have learned to wear a lot of different masks. And that's what we put out to the world, And it's generally it's very acceptable, We are nice, we are peace-loving, we are giving. That's the mask that we wear generally, and for most of us, or a lot of us, that's enough. And yet, if we are going to see the results of a bountiful harvest, we must come to the world and to each other as our true, authentic self. Which means that we need to let ourselves be vulnerable to the world around us so that that pure love that is our essence can be the seed that we sow. I was listening to Brene Brown, it was about an hour and a half thing that we caught on Netflix, and she was talking about this idea in order to be our true selves, we have to be vulnerable. We have to be willing to be hurt. And that's big. That's big. And again, that's why we do our spiritual work. It's why we meditate. It's why we pray. It's why we take time for spiritual contemplation. It's time, if we're not spiritually oriented, it's time that we take walks in nature or we read something inspiring. And that's the way that we drop this mask. That's the way that we chip away all that is unlike ourselves. It's also why we practice forgiveness, forgiveness of others and of ourselves, and we examine our hidden beliefs that often tell us that we're less than. And that's why we seek to find our true nature. John Randolph Price says, I have found that if I somehow shut off the love vibration, the feeling of complete unconditional love for everyone, I am putting a heavy restriction on my visible supply. Yeah. So you and I stand in the midst of this incredible, beautiful harvest. We're in this field of abundance. But to be able to enjoy the bounty, we have to sow those good seeds. And it's such an easy concept, isn't it? That, what we put out in thought returns to us in experiences. So easy. Try it. Putting that concept into practice is not so easy. It takes conscious effort. It does take work. Yet the rewards are great for those of us who make the effort. Because what begins to happen is we start to feel an ease and grace in this world. Our struggling ceases. Probably not every single minute of every single day, but enough to know that we are sowing good seeds. Joyful Thanksgiving. Well, obviously, we talk about gratitude all the time, so here we go again. When we embrace an attitude of gratitude, we see good all around us. Alan Cohen in I Had It All the Time tells a story, and I know that you've heard it before. I've told it before. Some of our practitioners have told it before. But it's so completely apropos for being thankful for everything. Once upon a time, in a tropical land, there lived a king who had an optimistic advisor. The lieutenant was so positive, in fact, that the king was often annoyed by his practice of constantly finding good in everything. One day, while the king and the lieutenant were on a journey through the jungle, the king was chopping a fresh coconut for breakfast, and his machete slipped, cutting off his toe. The aching monarch limped to show his misfortune to the lieutenant, who exclaimed, "Well, that's wonderful." "What did you say?" asked the king. "Well, this is a real blessing." Hearing this response, the king became very angry. This man was obviously poking fun at his mishap. "Take it from me," the lieutenant replied. "Behind this apparent incident, there is some good that we do not see." Well, that was the last straw. Furious, the king picked up the lieutenant and hurled him into a dry well. Then he set out to find his way back to the castle. En route, the king was apprehended by a band of headhunters who decided that he would make an excellent sacrifice for this month's offering to the volcano. The warriors took him to the tribal priest who prepared him for this dubious honor. As a holy man was anointing the reluctant sacrifice, he noticed that the king was missing a toe. "I'm sorry," the priest informed the king. "We can't use you. The volcano accepts only full-bodied sacrifices. So you are free to go." So overjoyed, the king hobbled out of the tribal camp, and suddenly it dawned on him that the lieutenant had been correct. There was indeed a hidden blessing behind this seeming misfortune. As quickly as he could, the king made his way to the well where he had left the lieutenant, and to the ruler's delight, his companion was sitting in the well, whistling happily. The king offered the lieutenant a hand. Yeah, it would annoy me too, wouldn't you? The king offered the lieutenant a hand, pulled him out of the well, and apologized profusely. "I am terribly sorry I threw you in there," said the king as he dusted his advisor's shoulders. "I was taken prisoner by some wild natives who were about to cast me into the volcano, but when they saw my toe was missing, they let me go. It was actually a miracle which you've foretold, and I so thoughtlessly cast you into this pit. Can you ever forgive me?" "No apology necessary," replied the lieutenant. "It was also a blessing that you left me in the well." "Now, how are you going to make something positive out of that?" inquired the king. "Because," the lieutenant explained, If I had been with you, they would have taken me for the sacrifice. So I know this story is a bit over the top, but if we can see that the universe wants only our highest and best good, then we are able to go to that bigger picture, as Karen talked about. We can see beyond to those things that are blessings in our life. And when we make looking for the good and praising it a habit, that becomes our dominant thought. That becomes our good seed, which manifests in our world of affairs. Third one is verbal harmlessness. John Randolph Price says, harmlessness in both word and thought is the destroyer of all limitation. So our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, says, if we want to be free from suffering, we have to stop inflicting it. If we want love, we have to love no matter what anybody thinks of us. If we no longer want to be condemned, we must no longer condemn somebody else. Without harm, without hurt, we may liberate ourselves and help to liberate others, lifting ourselves by the power of our creative imagination to the consciousness of the omnipotence of good and the omnipresence of the living spirit. So none of us here want to harm or condemn anybody else or ourselves. None of us would think of deliberately hurting somebody else. But this idea of verbal harmlessness is a bit more subtle than that. You know, what about that little dig to the waitress who brought whole wheat bread instead of sourdough, like you asked? You know, how about the choice words to the driver in front of us who has sat through the entire left turn light? And haven't we all been guilty of a judgmental or critical remark to a spouse or loved one? You can ask him. No
comment.
But this verbal harmlessness, according to John Randolph Price, also covers our thoughts. So while we may not have criticized someone to their face, we also need, as Ventura Papke used to tell us, stand guard at the portal of your mind so that we don't allow those critical thoughts to be harmful to ourselves or others. And think about this. Aren't we adding to the darkness of the planet every time we engage in a conversation that condemns another culture, another religion, another way of life? And aren't we sowing bad seeds each time we start a sentence with a critical "those people"? And of course, as we talked about last week, our own inner critic is often our most harmful companion. Each time we criticize ourselves, we're creating a bigger shell around our true essence. And so we need to remind ourselves that none of us are perfect at the human level. And besides, if we were, we'd be boring, you know. So if we can see our flaws with lightheartedness rather than disapproval, then we can accept ourselves the way we are. If we can accept ourselves the way we are, we can accept other people. That's the way that works. And then we are more free to accept the things that we can't change, and we're more able to change those that we can. Harmlessness in both word and thought is the destroyer of all limitation. I think that one's going on my mirror today. When we watch our words, our thoughts, our reactions, so that we are harmless in what we say and what we think, then we're free to enjoy that bountiful, abundant harvest that results from sowing good seeds. And the last one is right action. And I quote, "This we know, the earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites us all. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself." These words were originally attributed to Chief Seattle as the treaty was about to be signed that gave away his land. Right action starts in our thoughts, our beliefs, our ideas, and comes into form then as we move about the world, remembering that we are a strand in this web of life. And what we do to the web, we do to ourselves, makes us mindful of the incredible way this law works. What we give out, we receive back. It is a law of nature. It is a law of life. It is a metaphysical law. So right action then is a giving out of what we want to receive in our life, and it's undergirded by the knowledge of the deep connection that we have with each other and with everything that lives. A reporter once asked a farmer to divulge the secret behind his corn, which won the state fair contest year after year. The farmer confessed that it was all because he shared his seed with his neighbors. Why do you share your best corn seed with your neighbors when you're all entering the same contest? You're all in competition with one another, the reporter asked. Then the farmer replied, because the wind picks up pollen from the ripening corn and swirls it from field to field. If my neighbors grew inferior corn, cross-pollination would steadily degrade the quality of my corn. If I am to grow good corn, I must help my neighbor do the same. You know, the value of a life is measured by the life it touches, by the lives it touches. And the welfare of each one of us is bound up in the welfare of all of us. And we have to realize that the more of our good we give, the more good others have, the more we all have. And it can work no other way. This is the law. This is the lesson of the land, and it's the law of life. So this week, let's truly practice the principles of intense love, joyful thanksgiving, verbal harmlessness, and right action, so that we are sowing those good seeds that result in a bountiful harvest in our lives and enriches the lives of everybody that we touch. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.
Speaking of speaking things into existence and manifesting, this past week I had the opportunity to collaborate with one of my friends that you all have met on several episodes of Wednesday Night Live, Sky Nelson. We had the opportunity to sit down over Zoom and have a songwriting session together. So this is the song that we came up with, and it's a little bit of a call and response. And it was actually inspired by this little tiny ditty that I've been playing underneath your final treatment every week. And when you say, I speak a special word for those who are ailing or hurting, that was the inspiration for this song. It's called I Speak a Word. So it's in two parts. And I'm going to try my best. Because we promised each other that we would try these with our congregations this weekend. Thank you.
Love is manifest, and I am truly blessed in wholeness. I speak a word. Love is manifest, and I am truly blessed in wholeness. I speak a word.
And that's the first part. Ideally, there are two lead singers up here to help you all out. So here comes your part.
I believe.
And then in here, you put what you believe. So for example,
I believe I am healthy. I speak a word.
then we all say, I speak a word.
So, I believe I am healthy or joyful. I speak a word. And I'm going to say joyful. I believe I am joyful. I speak a word. Yeah. So now I want you to take a moment, and I'm going to leave that space blank. You can either say it inside, just think those words, because they're just as powerful when you think them than when you say them. Or you can speak it out loud and get every person in this room behind you in your affirmation. I believe I speak a word. Let's try another one. I believe I speak a word. I like grateful. I believe I speak the word. What else? What else? What's that? Love. I like that. I believe I am love. I speak a word. What else? What else can we speak on? Hopeful. I believe I am hopeful. I speak a word. What else? Complete. I like that. I believe I'm complete. I speak a word. Anything else? What else? Divine. I believe I am divine. I speak a word. I believe I am creative. I speak a word. Let's try one more. Peaceful. I believe I am peaceful. I speak a word. Now, you sing that line, now that we've all done it together a few times, and I'm going to try that first line on top of you. 1, 2, 3. I believe I speak the word. Love is manifest and I am truly blessed in wholeness. I speak a word. Love is manifest and I am truly blessed in wholeness. I speak a word. Love is manifest and I am truly blessed in wholeness. I speak a word. One more. Love is manifest and I am truly blessed in wholeness. I speak a word. I speak a word. Wow, that was lovely. Thank you for manifesting and speaking those words with us. Thank you.
Tell Sky thank you for doing that collaboration. It's great. Thank you so much. Okay, it's time for our offering, and we still have the basket. We're not taking a formal offering. There's still a basket on the table as we walk out, but we will do the offering affirmation together, and I do want to say a little thing to those who are watching on our YouTube videos. There's a place to donate at the end of that video, so we would appreciate your gifts. We've actually gotten gifts from other states, which is really exciting, and so please join those people so that we can have a little thing going between all of us, that connection that we talked about. Okay, won't you join me in our offering affirmation, left-hand side of our bulletin? My gift goes forth to heal, prosper, and bless all that it touches. It is evidence of my conviction that God is the source and substance of my supply. I share generously of my good, knowing that it returns to me multiplied abundantly, and so it is. So let's take a moment to close out in prayer and thanksgiving. Deeply grateful that we can see each other's faces and smiles. Wow. Okay, so we know right now that there is one mind. It is the mind of God. It's the mind that we use. And this mind is love, peace, beauty, joy, perfection, harmony, abundance. And made in the image and likeness, we are all of that in our essence. So I speak a word for each one of us right now, that essence that is truly you and truly me is being expressed at its highest and best level, so that we are sowing those good seeds that return in our life as abundance, joy, peace, and love. I speak a word for anyone who is experiencing any kind of a challenge, and know that power and presence of God is at the midst of that situation. And I simply give thanks for the good that is all around us, in us, and through us. And we release these words into that law of mind to do its perfect work as we say together, and so it is. Thank you all so very much.
When I was a girl